Hello everyone, it's Captain Rottweiler here, coming at you from Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the ever-elusive unicorn. This is also known as a RESET Scorecard. Today we're going to go over the RESET Scorecard template in Excel, but more importantly we're going to explain how you generate or pull all the data that goes into this template to get you your scorecard. First, when you open up the RESET template, you will get to a page that looks like this. If not, it's not that big a deal. It's purely cosmetic as the buttons are not currently functional. In the future, we hope to be able to get some macros in here that'll make this process a lot less tedious and a lot easier to bring it all together. Alright, without further ado though, we will jump straight to getting the data out of MHS PHP. You can get to MHS PHP through the Knowledge Exchange. Once you log in, you will have a link down here to CarePoint. Once you log into CarePoint, this will be about your default view. MHS PHP is one of the apps. Now you can see I already have it favorited, but if you don't, you just click on All Apps. Here's MHS PHP, and of course you can favorite it right here. Once you open up MHS PHP, your default jump will be to your facility and appointments. And of course, if you've never logged on to MHS PHP during the registration process, pretty quick and easy, but you will need your facility's DMIS number to get access to this. So as I said, when you pull it up, this is information on everybody in your facility, which you of course do not need. A couple things to note here. We generally do the data report polls on our providers every 2 weeks. And you have to pull it on each and individual provider. There's several reasons for this. Number one, as you can see right here, looking at everyone in your facility, it generates 654 items. If I were to try to export this, it would only export 500 of those items, so you get data loss. The second reason why you have to break it down by provider, as well as run it every 2 weeks, is it only goes back about 32, 33 days. I forget how far back you can go, but it's either 32 or 33. Once you cross that, you get data loss. So it's easier just to stay on top of it. You run it every 2 weeks and then you won't get any data loss. How you do it is first, you're going to go to your filters, My Filters. Unfortunately, I have not been able to generate this as public, but if you pay attention or if you need help, just let us know. We're going to load my Reset Continuity filter and just explain it a little bit here. Oh, that did not load right. My filters. Just try the first one, continuity. Alright, so in continuity, you will see right here you have your beginning parentheses, and what you have here, we're looking at appointment provider and PCM name. Now you need both of these and the OR statement, because what we want is information on, let's say, Captain Hubbard. The system does not always run well on government computers. So we want appointment provider Hubbard, PCM name Hubbard. And then you have a second set of parentheses down here. So you have your open and your close here. And then you have and open parentheses and close parentheses down here. And we're looking at provider group. And your provider group is going to be your different elements at your family health clinic, okay? So we will be looking at Captain Hubbard in element A, B, and C, and that captures your cross-booking. Then down here, after that parentheses, we want to exclude anything, that's why it says does not contain TCON, because we're not interested in them right now. And then we want to also kick out anything that's, actually this needs to be changed to virtual PHA. Now, the virtual PHA for us is how we handle our BOMC process. Our virtual PHAs are added into the provider's template after 1600 each day, 3 or 4 of them, and they're called virtual PHA. So we don't want those in there, so we're going to exclude anything that contains that. All right, so we're going to search. And that brings up activity on Hubbard. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at anybody who came in and was seen by Captain Hubbard today, goes under appointment provider. Anybody who accessed healthcare who Captain Hubbard is the PCM of, will also get captured in here. So again, that's how you capture all the appointments in cross booking. Then you need to change your view over here to the right under options to look back about 2 weeks. So we're going to start with the 1st of January 2018. Then we're going to go to the second Friday, the 12th of January. Again, the amount of time it takes you to get through this depends on the system responsiveness for the day. Alright, so we've looked back for the last 2 weeks on activity for our PCM under the name of Hubbard, generating 133 items. Now we want to export this. Click on that, and you will get this little export request. Now, the way the scorecard formulas are set up, you have to run it with limited PII. Again, that's assuming that wherever you're going to save the scorecard, it's going to need to be password protected on a drive that's okay to store some patient information. So what I typically do is name it by the PCM and the date range in which I'm looking at, and then you hit submit. Now we're going to do that for a few more providers. So we already have the date range down, so now all we have to do is just change the providers that we are looking at. Again, you're going to export that, and I save it under the provider that I'm looking at and the date range. Hit submit. Export. Hit submit. And last but not least, we will take a look at Fletcher. And export this one. Okay, so we're only going to do that for 4 providers, just for the example. Once you have exported all of them, you're going to start getting emails when your reports are ready. They don't always get exported right away and available for download, but Once you get all the emails that your exports are done, you go to Registry Tools, User Export List. And you can see here where we have submitted them, when it was actually available, and when we actually retrieved it. So once you get once you're able to retrieve them, you just click right here, and I typically save as, and I have a folder that has the data where we save the data for the month. And as you can see, I've already done this just to speed up the process here, but for each one that I download, again, I save it as the provider name and the date range that I'm looking at, just to, it makes it easier to keep track of the work that's already been done. All right, next we're going to show you Joe's. So here's how we've been generating provider satisfaction for Joe's. Oops, automatically logged me out. So we have to look at a 12-month period of data, and the reason why we have to is because the return rate here at Ramstein is actually atrocious at 4%. So this isn't very good information, but it was the best information that we had to go on to look at provider satisfaction when we started this project. Shortly, we will have online a approved tool for free usage that is validated and available through the American Academy of Family Physicians. We're currently in the phase of testing it. Once we get it up and running smoothly and we get the scorecard to auto-generate numbers on it, we will of course provide an update on that. But for now, looking at Joe's, we go back 12 months. This may not be necessary at your facility, but it's what we have to do here to get enough good data. Your eSIMs, you're going to sort by service, Air Force. And of course, if you didn't see, I started off by clicking a ranking report. Of course, our region is USAFE. Now, the single question, again, that we use for measuring provider satisfaction is overall satisfaction with your provider. And all report options is fine. And you're going to choose your parent DEMIS, which for us is 86 MDG 0806. Child, again, 86. Once you've got all that sorted out, you just hit download and it'll generate your report and automatically give it to you for download. See? All right. So there is your Joe's report. MyCare, or secure messaging status, is actually on the Knowledge Exchange under the patient portal secure messaging page. The biggest problem with this one, and Joe's actually has a pretty similar problem, is that they don't update for, well, they've updated for December now. What are we at, the 16th of the month? I actually checked this yesterday, and as of the 15th of January, I was still looking at November's data. So there's a couple week lag on Joe's, which is just something to be aware of. There's also a few week lag on the secure messaging metrics, which is going to be your biggest problem on getting end of month report cards out to your providers, because you can't do that until this information is available. So we typically are trying to get the end of month scorecard out for the previous month to let them know how they're doing, and then we give them an update on how they're tracking for the current month with the MHS data poll. Anyways, the secure messaging information is available right here, your MTF secure messaging monthly database. So as you can see, 16 January 2018 is where we're at right now. That's today's date, and we're still looking at the database from November. So I still can't complete my December scorecards. But as an example, so you're going to click on this. It'll give you the option to download. Of course, yes, you can open it and then save it later. So I've already done that. So here we will start off with how you filter out the information needed for MyCare stats. So this is what you're going to be looking at when you first open up the MyCare page. There's a lot of buttons. This is your first view. The only thing that we're really interested in here is the provider detail page. So this is everybody across the whole AFMS. We're not interested in that. What you're going to do is you're going to sort by your practice name. Ramstein. Okay. Now you have all your Ramstein providers. Then you're going to filter down to your provider names. So let's go Hubbard. Okay. Arnett. And you want to hit this for each subsequent one. You want to hit add to current selection filter. Fletcher, add. All right. Once you've filtered out your providers, everything below this blue bar here, you're going to copy each row. Once you've copied it, you're going to go into your RESET Scorecard template, My Care Stats page, and just paste it, starting with the row right below, the blue line again. So you just paste that in there. For MHS PHP, we'll go back through and show you how to copy all that data in there. So, as I told you before, I always save it so that it's the provider and the date range that I'm looking at. You're going to open up each one. Oops. Which is again why I told you this gets a little tedious to do. Okay, so you're just going to pick one to start with. So I always start with the first one that I open up. It's just easy. You're going to delete line 1 and 2. You don't need any of that information. You'll leave all your headers right here under the first person, and then scroll down and start with the last line below the end of the data. You will open up your second person, and you're going to copy everything from line 4 all the way down to the end of their data. And then paste that in the original person that you started with, right there, starting in column A at the last row that there was data. Again, you got to scroll down to the last row available, then move on to your next provider. So here I'm at Hubbard's information. You're going to copy all of this information right here. Again, everything that it pulled from line 4 all the way down to the last. And again, you're going to add that to the first person's data pull. Scroll down once more again. Start with the last line available. And then we're going to move on to our next provider, which is Johnson now. You're going to copy everything again from line 4 all the way down to the last data available. And paste it into the first one. Of course, you are good to close your remaining providers MHS PHP polls after that. No, I don't want to save that. Okay, so now we're left with the first person's MHS PHP data poll that we did and trimmed it a little bit. I always just go back through and save this as combined MHS PHP, and again the date range for which I'm looking at, so that it's easy to keep track of what I've already done. We're going to save that. Now we're going to go to data, and there's a button right here that's called remove duplicates. So the reason why there's duplicates is because you're looking at both the appointment provider and the PCM. So Arnett saw someone that was in panel to Hubbard, so that's going to show up on both her data poll as well as Hubbard's. So typically right here you have the name, the gender, birth month. This gives you, this is the PHI that I've already removed for this video. This is important to leave in there until you've removed duplicates. So remove duplicates, and it removed 137. Now it's probably okay to not have that information in there, but again, this is how we set up these headers here are important to how we have the formulas set up to look for information. Okay, so you have to look at it with limited PHI, PII. After you've removed the duplicates, if you want to remove that information, it's perfectly fine. So now, under the combined MHS PHP file that we just created, you got to copy everything from line 2 all the way down to the end of the data. I don't know if I warned you, but if I didn't, see, this is why we call it a tedious process, because there's a lot of little steps in here in order to get this to work properly. So take that data to your RESET Scorecard, MHS PHP tab, starting with line 2. You just paste it all in there. Okay, so now we have our MHS PHP information in there, which that gives us our information on cross-booking, no-show rates, cancellations, and how many appointments that the provider saw. Pretty much the bulk of your scorecard is done with that data pull right there. Next, we'll look at ED utilization. So here is what our daily utilization report looks like. This is the layout of it. PCM name, patient name, social, age, sex, reason for visit, all that you can see. And then of course down here we have it. This is inpatient in the States, inpatient locally, and inpatient on the economy here in Germany. None of that is really important to you, really just this ED, this first tab is. So that's our layout. Oops, let me get back there for you. The only thing that we really need for copying into the RESET Scorecard template is column A here, PCM name. Now some of this other information is great to have, but we don't need the patient name, the social security, age, sex, reason for visit, all that. We really just need this information right here. And of course the date that they receive is probably good information to make sure that you're not counting some stuff twice. So we're going to close this example. And I'll show you what my UM actually shows me to put into the scorecard. This is December's utilization. And as you can see here, we have the PCM name, the appointment date. I forget what this is. I think this is the time that they checked in. The diagnosis when they left, their disposition, and their category. Again, really don't need all that information, but it's not a big deal either. So we're going to copy in everything starting with the first line all the way down to the last line onto the RESET Scorecard template and just paste it in there. So again, as long as your PCM name is right here, that's the biggest part of it, because all it does is look at how many times the PCM name is seen and take that number and divide it by their empanelment, and there you go, we have our estimated leakage. So of course the goal being less than 5. So now we have my care stats populated, ED utilization populated, MHS PHP populated, and now we're going to look at the provider data table. As you can see, there's still nothing going on here. Several things have to be correct on this provider data table before you can generate a useful scorecard. First and foremost, this has to be accurate with the month that we're looking at. I know I have a mixture of January and December data in here, and that's fine, but really you just to get it to spit out correct information at you, you need to have the correct month in here, the correct year right there. And as you can see over here to the right, it starts populating the days for the month of January. Number of clinical days or clinic days is important. So I believe in January we have 20, but don't quote me on that. And you can see you still don't have a whole lot going on here. And that's not going to occur until you type in the names of the providers that you want it to look for. So once you've done that, you're going to start getting information. And this is going to be divided by 0 at the moment because I forgot to put in their total enrollment. So we're just going to give everybody 1,200. Not sure why it's giving me a hard time there. All right. Say her enrollment is 1,200. Hubbard will also give you an enrollment of 1,200. Johnson and an enrollment of 1,200. So, as you can see, once you have filled in the providers' names that you wanted to look for, it will give you the total encounters that were created under that provider's name for the month, the total left after they were canceled or scrubbed. That could be they called in, canceled it, or we called them and changed it into a virtual or something. Number of the PCMS patients who sought care for the month, or at least for the date range that you pulled data on. Number of patients that were actually seen after cancel or scrub. Patients who the provider saw that were not enrolled to them. Number of patients of theirs that were not seen by them. Number of patients crossbooked to a different element. And the number of patients that were seen by the PCMs themselves. And right here, walk-ins. Just to talk about walk-ins for a second. This is just kind of gee-whiz information for the moment. Right now, we are working on, and we probably have it pretty well handled here at Ramstein, so I can change the formula, but at other places we're not sure how walk-ins are done. So until everybody has their walk-ins created as a 24-hour appointment, and when we're talking walk-ins, we're talking unplanned walk-ins, pregnancy test walk-ins, wart treatment walk-ins, sore throat walk-ins, dysuria walk-ins, or whatever local protocols that you have. Anytime someone just shows up and is like, I'm here to be seen for those issues, or I cut my finger, or hey, I just thought I would stop by because I'm having chest pain, those unplanned visits should all be walked in under 24-hour walk-in appointments for the purposes of reset. Once that is done, we will change this formula so that this will count up all 24-hour walk-ins not seen by the provider and automatically exclude them from continuity, which is the next column over. Like I said, we don't currently have that. Generally speaking, the numbers aren't big enough to ding the continuity that much, but it's enough. You want to look at it if someone's continuity is riding a little bit low. Look at how many walk-ins potentially are counting against them, okay? Next, you will see adjusted continuity. Now, the thing about adjusted continuity is this looks at only when you were in clinic. And so that gets off to this weird little matrix over here. So what this does is for each day of the month, it goes through and looks and sees, did you have any kept appointments? If you did, it counts it as a clinic day. And it just does individual counting of how many of your patients you saw and how many of them you didn't see only while you were in clinic. Of course, the theory here is your patients are still going to get seen whether you're TDY, on leave, and whatnot. So you can't really get a good continuity by counting your patients being seen while you weren't here. So that's what adjusted continuity is. These next few columns here, this is generated by your GPM. They're going to go back through and look on the last day of the week, how many open appointments you have for the following week, and we'll get your average percentage here. Again, like I said, your leakage just counts beans on EDD utilization and divides it by enrollment. MHS PHP no-show. I just put MHS PHP no-show because we were looking at the AF report as well as this. There is a little bit of a different depending on how you create your pivot table, but it's not enough to really be concerned about. So we just went with MHS no-show to figure out your provider's no-show for the data range that you're looking at. Patient satisfaction. So here we'll step into Joe's, but not just yet. We'll explain the MyCare. So MyCare just goes through and looks at your MyCare stats where your provider sent messages. So total patient messages. This is like how many they responded to or how many they created directly to the person for the date range. Well, actually, MyCare is monthly. So this is a monthly stat. This just looks at how many messages were responded to by your provider within one business day, and it gives you your percentage. Sorry, this is total patient messages sent to your provider. This is how many responded to within 24 hours to give you your percent responded to within 24 hours. This is your total number of enrollees to MyCare for your provider. This is your total provider messages. So this is the ones where your provider sent a message, or next column is the one where your provider responded to a message that was sent to them. And that's from their account, not from your text account, not from your nurse's account. As far as we understand it, these two are directly from the provider's account. And you get your total message sent here. And total MyCare percent is just your percentage of your population that is enrolled to you on MyCare. And of course down here you just have averages that come up with for everybody, all right? So we recommend collecting data on everyone, and the reason why we do that is if they change their mind later and go to reset, you can show them the positive trend that they've had. Secondarily, it just gives you a good snapshot of your clinic, and if you have a problem, you can look at this data table as like, is it a problem with everybody or is it a problem with just one person, right? So next we'll jump to your patient satisfaction. As I said before, we are working on a exit survey at the clinic, implementing it that'll get you better information on your patient satisfaction. But for now, we have Joe's ranking. Waiting for it to pop up. All right. So completely satisfied with provider tab. Again, that's what we're interested in. And so look, in a 12-month period, we've only had 65 respondents. Or sorry, this is actually just for November. I downloaded the wrong one. But what you do here is you go to your completely satisfied tab for the last 12 months, and if they've had enough responses, you'll get a score right here, and you just take that score and manually input it into the patient satisfaction tab. So what was the month of November? Everybody had a 70. Ramstein has 76.3, so I'm just going to give everybody 76.3 to make it easy. But that's all you do. You just look at the completely satisfied tab, and it will, and that's where you get your patient satisfaction numbers. Open percent, again, once you just have your GPM go in here and put in the percents for the different weeks. Yeah, looks like my little average thing here got broken, which is fine. It's just, this is all it is. I'll fix it, but so that it's ready for release. But it just averages for right here, and you get your clinic average. So as you add the numbers, of course, if someone's not here for the week, don't put 0 here. Just leave it blank. If you leave it blank, it's not going to count it in the average. Okay. Then when you go, you are ready to give yourself a monthly scorecard. So on the monthly scorecard, it automatically generates information again as you put it in here. So January 2018. All right. So once you put the provider's name in here, it'll automatically pull information from the provider data table and start giving you your scorecard. As you can see in here, for some reason, as I saved it, some of this information or the way it displays went a little wonky on me, and that's perfectly fine. I will get it fixed here shortly before release. But here's where you get your monthly scorecard. So it'll automatically go through and calculate the amount of clinical days that someone had in clinic, and it'll display that information for you. Again, mostly just the gee-whiz, can be useful so that if you're noticing someone is have a little bit of problem with percent open or adjusted PCM continuity, you can go back and look like, is this an actual problem, or is something going on here where they're just not available in clinic? And of course, this is way off because we're generating an end of month scorecard off of partial data from January. And of course, like I said, you have your goals here. It'll go through and give points based off of the actual percentage that you had and whether you met the goal or not. So if you met, say right here, 70.4% on adjusted PCM continuity, didn't quite get this individual 20 points, but it got them the majority of points because they were the majority of the way there, right? So it's your actual divided by goal that gives you the percentage of the 20 points that you're going to get, okay? So that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, let us know. We will be putting some final touches on this scorecard, and we will get it out to you guys.